2023 will likely go down as one of the best years in video games, filled with a relentless barrage of incredible titles with various scopes and sizes. Well, hello there and welcome to MetRoot. This year, there are so many deserving titles that it's harder to narrow down a top 10 than ever. There were some truly great games that just barely missed the cut, and whose impact we don't want to ignore. Titles like Super Mario Bros. Wonder and Hi-Fi Rush are bent genres and surprising in some incredible ways. But ultimately only 10 titles could make the final list. Starting the list, we have Super Mario Bros. Wonder, a character and series that has been the subject of constant change. Mario came along this year and reinvented itself. Super Mario Wonder is the latest mainline 2D Mario game, and it starts with the presentation. The art style has been overhauled to give Mario and company more expressive faces and animated gestures as they navigate through vibrant stages. The head-bopping a cappella-infused music tracks keep everything feeling light and breezy. The new setting of the Flower Kingdom introduces tons of new power-ups and enemy types, infusing the whole affair with life and creativity. And that's all before we even introduce the main new gimmick, that's the Wonder effects. These inventive world-changing effects are tailored to each stage, barely ever repeating. They're the backbone of the progression, while also being a source of constant delightful surprises. You never know just what you're going to get when you start a new stage in Super Mario Wonder, but it's bound to put a smile on your face. Meanwhile, Mario Wonder packs a ton of thoughtful quality-of-life changes to the Mario formula, modernizing it in subtle ways. Character selection has been widely expanded, and more stage types have been added for a variety of length and play styles. Coming up on number 9, we have Starfield, Bethesda Game Studios' most ambitious game to date. Starfield puts a galaxy in front of the player and tells them to explore. Its world feels vast and occasionally empty, but the game rewards exploration and offers it on a level that few other developers can. Factions to join, characters to meet, and tons of loot to loot. There is still that undeniable Bethesda touch all over Starfield, but it also feels like something new. There is also an additional layer to Starfield that takes everything that players think they know about the game and flips it on its head, in the process creating a game that becomes limitless. Todd Howard and his team deserve serious props for taking a step outside the familiar and trying something different. There is nothing like Starfield, and likely won't be anything like it in the future. Coming up on number 8, we have Street Fighter VI. With Street Fighter VI, Capcom has delivered one of the most content-rich fighting games ever made. From its over-the-top world tour story mode to its extensive online multiplayer options, fights are fast-paced and hard-hitting, with the new drive gauge system proving to be a game-changing addition to the Street Fighter formula. Multiple control options ensure that Street Fighter VI can be enjoyed by hardcore veterans and newcomers alike, meaning it's also one of the more accessible fighting games on the market. On number 7, we have Resident Evil 4 Remake. Resident Evil 4 Remake is the new benchmark by which all future remakes should be measured. It takes a title that was beloved and doesn't change too much about it, only modernizing combat to make it more palatable in today's time and switching up some sections to minimize frustration and ratchet up excitement. Capcom's RE engine continues to impress with a presentation that is crisp and clean while still being foreboding and oppressive. Survival horror has had its ups and downs over the last decade, but Resident Evil has found a new life in almost every facet of the brand. Resident Evil 4 showcases both what the series has brought to the genre while also acknowledging how it can improve. Coming up on number 6, we have Alan Wake 2. Alan Wake 2 is a game that has been over a decade in the making. Remedy Entertainment has used lessons learned from past games to instill confidence in its abilities as writers and designers, and all of that is evident on the screen. In some ways, seeing how Alan Wake 2 turned out now and not any earlier makes that 13-year wait worth it. The introduction of Saga Anderson gives newcomers an inroad to the world of Wake, but the game as a whole feels like the most Remedy game the studio has made yet. It's weird, it's bold, and it's one of the best looking games available. Alan Wake 2 is an experience that few will be able to shake off once they finish it. On number 5, we have Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Insomniac Games has been on a roll as of late, and that pattern continued with Marvel's Spider-Man 2, serving up a more personal story for Peter Parker while mixing in the development of Miles Morales as his own Spider-Man. The sequel was bigger in every sense of the word. Combat has evolved to be more fluid and varied. Playable New York expanded to include Queens, and an inevitable showdown with Venom is always sure to get Spidey fans excited. Not to mention, a full jump to PS5 allowed Insomniac to show off some of its technological wizardry when it comes to graphics and load times. In every sense of the experience, this is how you do a big budget sequel. On number 4, we have Lies of P. Many games seek to emulate emulate what From Software has done with its Soulsborne series, but few are successful in capturing that spirit as Lies of P. More Bloodborne than Dark Souls, Lies of P wears its inspirations on its sleeve, but it also breaks from the mold with combat that forces patience, rhythm, and pattern recognition. The game also features an intriguing story and lore, based on the story of Pinocchio by Carlo Collodi, and even the promise of a bigger universe just outside the borders of Krat. Ultimately, Souls-likes live and die by their combat and boss fights, and Lies of P has some of the best the genre has ever seen. On the third spot, we have Sea of Stars. Traditional turn-based RPGs are not as popular as they once were, but Sea of Stars shows what the genre can offer, albeit with some modern twists. So much of the game's design can be traced back to some other successful RPG, but it's the way this title combines and evolves the concepts of its predecessors that help it stand out. An art style that is retro while still giving an impressive sense of scale, combat that keeps the player engaged, and a story that becomes more layered and nuanced the longer it goes. Sea of Stars is an example of how simplicity can be just as effective as grandiosity, not to mention the addition of one of this year's best soundtracks. On second spot we have Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3 is the type of RPG that gamers are talking about when they say role-playing game. It's an experience that truly lets players embody a role and run wild with their imagination. Choices abound in a story that is sprawling and filled with memorable characters around every turn. Best of all, this third entry never shied away from embracing its Dungeons & Dragons roots, literally giving players dice rolls anytime they seek to complete an action. With Baldur's Gate 3 now having set a new bar, the RPG genre will likely be much different in the coming years. Finally, we have The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom as our number one pick. Nintendo was able to top the multi-award-winning Breath of the Wild by leaning more towards the Zelda formula with the Return of Temples, while at the same delivering something completely new. The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom is an incredible Zelda story and tale, but it's also an amazing sandbox capable of birthing creations that run the gamut of creativity. Some are simple yet effective, while others are downright jaw-dropping. Tears of the Kingdom may be the end for this era of The Legend of Zelda, and that feels fitting. It would be difficult to top the Ultra Hand as a concept and this open world as a sandbox. 2024 already looks to be a stacked year for video game releases, but it will still be hard to top this year. The sheer volume of incredible titles that were released in 2023 should make this one of the most memorable 12-month stretches in video game history. Well, that's it for today. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell to stay updated. Also, let us know in the comments if you want more top game lists on a specific topic. I'm MetRoot signing off, and we'll see you in the next amazing video.